Hey everyone, welcome back to another week of the Startup Junkies Podcast. We really appreciate you tuning in to another week with us. My name is Matthew Ward and I'm on the Startup Junkie team. Today I'm with my co-host Jeff Amerine, who is the founder and managing director of Startup Junkie. How are you doing today, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Good. And before we begin, we would like to thank our sponsor, Tiny Capital. Tiny partners with founders to give them quick, straightforward exits that protect their team and culture. They'll make an offer within a week, close the deal within a month, and keep your business operating for the long term. To get in touch, go to tinycapital.com/startup junkies, and they'll let you know within a couple of days. All right, now we have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Helen Maringer, and she is the CEO of Shire Post Mint. Shire Post Mint is a family-run coining operation located in Springdale, Arkansas. They specialize in licensed fantasy coinage, but they also make a lot of other things as well. Helen, thank you for coming on to the show. And to kick it off, what led you to Shire Post Mint?
Thank you so much for having me. What led me to Shire Post Mint? My family. I grew up with my dad, who is the founder of Shire Post Mint, Tom Maringer. And he started making coins when I was about 11, I think. One of my first unpaid jobs was sorting through coins to figure out which ones were solid copper, way back in the day. So I've been around it my whole life. So I guess what led me back to Shire Post Mint was a need for package design. We had this meeting with a Barnes & Noble buyer and didn't have packaging for it. So that was my first job. And then one thing led to another, and here we are.
How cool is it that you actually work for a business that makes its own money to make money? I mean, it's the neatest. I can't get over that, right? I mean, it is, right? So talk a little bit about you've got a variety of machines, and we've had the good privilege of being in your location, and some of those are not new, right? I mean, these are things that you've restored, and want to talk a little bit about what it takes to actually make your own money.
Yeah, we have very few new machines and lots of older machines. So the whole business of making coins started when my dad stumbled upon this antique screw press, which has two moving parts and is very heavy. It's probably 1 to 2 tons in weight. And he found it in somebody's garage in Ohio. And he has this great story about this ray of light shone on it. And, you know, this dream he had of making coins suddenly felt like it could be a reality. So he bought a trailer, took it home, set it up, and he's like, what next? And figured out he needed a lathe. So we got a lathe, and then figured out he needed this and this and this. He already had a furnace because he was a knife and sword maker for about 30 years before this, and then just transitioned his shop into making coins. So there were a lot of machines he already had from that. But yeah, since then, we have, I don't even know how many presses we have anymore. I think it's like at least 13. We just got a couple new ones, including, I think, one that's like 500 tons, which is quite a lot of pressure. So we've got all these new toys. We've got lathes, rolling mills. So basically we can take a sheet of metal, a sheet of copper, make the blanks for it, put those blanks into the press, stamp the designs, tumble them and make them feel really nice and look really pretty, and do all the things with all the metal.
Well, talk about your market a little bit. So I know you've got some really interesting blue chip customers, and talk about how you realized there was actually demand for it, and some of the breakthroughs you've had.
Yeah, I actually just, or one of my coworkers just packed up an order that was maybe 500 Game of Thrones coins for one person who just really needs to fill up the treasure chest. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey to learn more about our customers. The core base that lifted the business up was Game of Thrones fans. So my dad had started making official Game of Thrones coins in 2003 in official partnership with George R. R. Martin. And then the HBO series started in 2010. So there was, definitely fans who were buying coins. But then in 2010, it just skyrocketed. So everybody just got on board with the Game of Thrones madness. And my dad at the time was swept along up in that. So there's this literary fan that really enjoys that we, our literary accuracy doesn't really matter what's on the screen. We do actually have one screen accurate coin, but that's a different thing. So yeah, it's like book readers who love being in this world and appreciate that physical connection to the story. So it's this extension of world building and sci-fi fantasy literature. And now we are expanding our line into non-licensed products. So our most popular one right now is the Moon coin, which is just an accurate representation of the moon at 96 million to 1 scale. So we have a 1-inch coin and a 1.5-inch coin. And there, the market's, I think, much wider. And if you compare everybody who's read Game of Thrones or watched Game of Thrones to everyone who has ever seen the moon, it's a pretty big market.
Right.
And it's really helped me learn about, what a small sentimental object can mean to somebody, because everybody, has a different relationship with what the symbol of the moon means. And in customer reviews, which I try to read everything, they'll say, I gave this to my wife and I told her I love you to the moon and back, or I got married on a full moon, or I just lost my dog and this means a lot. So I learn with every coin release that we do how people are using the coins and what about the coins is speaking to them. I really enjoy the fact that it's coins in particular, because it's kind of a universal language with a couple exceptions. Pretty much everybody in the world understands kind of the language of coins, especially with our licensed products like from Game of Thrones or from Lord of the Rings. Even if you can't understand the text, you could still understand, okay, there's a tree on this. That means like the tree is important culturally to this place, or there's a face on there that's probably the ruler or important deity or something. So it's a language for us to tap into and reference. And, I can explain what's on the coin, but I don't really have to explain what a coin is, if that makes sense.
Through all that process, do you do a lot of the original art, or do you get the art from the customer? How does that work?
We will do the art in a couple different ways. My brother, who is the engraver, his process is really manual. So all he needs is a physical printout of the art, and then he interprets the depths and the details and all of the artistry stuff. That's all in his head. So we've worked with like collages or pencil sketches. We go really low tech, but we've been trying more and more to commission illustrators and artists. We have worked with authors teams before, our Mistborn coins. Those illustrations came from the art director. Yeah, we'll accept lots of ideas from customers. We don't often receive or ask for the really detailed art from our customers, but we do rely on our customers for what we want to do next.
With a product that connects so closely with the consumers, how do you go about marketing that?
That's a great question, one I'm definitely still trying to find out. Yeah, we've had success using Kickstarter as a marketing tool.
You had
Word
a
of
big
mouth, I think, is
Kickstarter.
the biggest one.
You had a big Kickstarter campaign. Talk about what that was like and why you think it was as well supported as it was.
Yeah, the biggest one that I've done was our Mistborn coin launch in 2017. And that fan base, from what I can see, the Mistborn series of books by Brandon Sanderson, it's a series of 6 books right now, and it will be more in the future. And they're really good. Also, coins are a really central part of that. Not to get too into it, though I definitely recommend the books. The magic system created is based on metals. And so coins are used all the time as both money and as these kind of magical objects that allow people to fly. It's a really simplified version of it, but it's really cool. Like if somebody has a bag of coins, they can fly all over the city. It's awesome. So there was already people asking for Mistborn coins for one. And then the fact that they're just books and not movies, I think all the fans, they're pretty condensed into a couple places. So I was able to talk to moderators of a couple forums and the Reddit subreddit, and yeah, with a couple posts and then a tweet from the author, I feel like we got in front of the eyes of definitely not all, but a really huge chunk of that fan base. So in a way, it was a lot easier to promote than something like Game of Thrones that has a really wide fan base, but it's really spread out too. And so it would cost a lot more and just take way much more time to get in front of even the equivalent amount of people. Plus, these fans are just really hungry for something. So yeah, that was an amazing experience, and I think it almost set my hopes a little high, or I didn't quite realize how special that release was until my next one, and I was like, okay, well, I did that, and so next time it's going to be easier and better, and no way that it could not be as good as that. And then with reflection, I saw, the Mistborn property and the fans are really something else. And yeah, it's a learning experience for sure.
For you, Helen, something that I went through whenever I was about to go into college is working with the family business, and my dad did real estate, and there's definitely ups and downs. How has that process been for you, trying to work through that, through the personal understandings and business understandings, and being able to balance that?
Yeah, it's been a struggle for sure. Clear communication has been our best asset. My brother and I are kind of heading the company at this point. I'm CEO and he's operations manager, or something that sounds more official than that. But he kind of runs the shop, and then I'm kind of running the sales and marketing side. But we always collaborate on, what the next project is going to be, and larger decisions. And my parents, they do want to transition out, but they still want to be involved and help out and make decisions. So yeah, we're still trying to figure out how to navigate all of that and make sure that everybody has a voice and there's not two people trying to do the same thing. So I'll let you know when we figure it out.
Family businesses are tough because it's in a regular business, and it's not uniformly true in a startup, you can kind of put it away and you're not with those people all the time. Family business, it can be 24/7. So figuring out how to divide the line, and I imagine that occasionally dinners and holidays can gravitate back towards what's going on in the business versus just enjoying each other. How have you managed that part of it?
Yeah, sometimes when we're having family time, we'll say like, no business talk. We can talk business the next day. I'm still really bad at keeping that boundary.
Yeah.
But when we do keep it, it's so helpful. And something for me personally that's difficult is just, I really care about my family, and it can be hard to separate that work from feeling these consequences of, if I don't do this right, then like everyone who depends on me won't have food for their table or something. So what's helped me a lot is going to counseling and meditation, just really trying to work on my anxiety. And it's still there. I'm still managing it. But I think going to counseling has been one of the best things I've done for this business.
How big's the team now? How many total team members do you have?
We've got about 10 people.
So
some people working from home.
Yeah, these days especially, I would imagine. So
and one of them's in Delaware, so
well, and you've got a big move, right? You've historically been in your location there in Springdale, but you've got a big move to announce, right?
Yeah, we've worked out of my parents' house for forever, and we've always wanted to be able to, invite people to come tour and buy things from us directly, but it's just not the place for it. So we decided to start looking for a building, didn't find anything that suited our needs. So we bought a piece of land in West Fork on Main Street, and we're building a 7,000 square foot shop. So we're going to have manufacturing and offices and a retail spot. And we're setting it up so we'll be able to have food trucks and hopefully
tours
make
and
it
all that. Tours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. Make it a
so
destination.
We want to have a tourist destination, and hopefully something that can provide some services to the West Fork community as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great progress and I think, to backtrack a little, we first met and got to know each other was it the Scale Up program or the 270 Scale Up, right?
Yeah.
Which was a SBA funded accelerator we did, and you all were one of the great companies that was in there, and we were able to help you in thinking through growth and whatnot. And it's just fun to watch how far you've gotten in that amount of time. That's been a few years ago now. Very exciting.
On a personal level, I think Scale Up really helped my confidence in making decisions for the business. I believe I wasn't technically CEO yet. I think I was just a salesperson, and that really got in my head. I was like, I'm the only, non-owner, non-CEO in this program. Like, why am I here? But everybody there and everybody at Startup Junkie was so encouraging and welcoming, and I felt like it was really validating, and it helped prepare me to feel confident in stepping into the CEO role. And plus all the awesome tricks and spreadsheets that were provided really helped too.
The toolkit, right?
Yeah.
Matthew, over to you.
Yes. Helen, what's the actual process of making a coin? Seems like that'd be a very complex process with all the machinery involved. I'd be curious to hear about how all of that works together.
Definitely. So we start with the design, and we always try to consult with the engraver while doing the design, because there's certain things like if you have a receding background overlaid on top of a figure, it's just really hard to translate into, what ends up being a 1/16 of an inch of height on a coin engraving. So once we have that, we'll just print out on regular sheet of paper just that image. It'll be reversed positive. We'll print it out in the correct way. I'm not doing the printing. And it's about a 1:7 scale. So if you're doing a 1-inch coin, it'll be a 7-inch image. And we have what's called a reduction lathe. It's a panto mill. And so you use a stylus on this side and trace the large image. And then there's a cutter over here that at a 1:7 scale will cut the dies. So Woody will use that to kind of sketch out the major lines. If there's, on a portrait, he'll kind of carve out the basic levels of the face. He marks up his drawings in a cool way. It's like little topographic maps that he just freehands. It's really cool. So once he has that, then he'll take it over to his hand engraving station, and he's got a tiny little pneumatic engraver. So it's like a jackhammer that's the size of a pencil, and he's got lots of different tips that he can put onto it. And one cool thing about his engraving style is he was not formally trained. He just picked it up and went with it. And I believe that he's doing some really cool things with experimenting. I know he's been using like soft steel instead of hardened steel because it gives a different effect. It's really cool. I could go on about that forever. But he will do a lot of hand engraving, all the details, for example, and he'll add a lot of details too. We did a naughty or nice decision maker coin for Christmas, and the naughty side had this really nasty looking Krampus. And when I noticed that Woody had put taste buds on the top of the Krampus tongue, just like how our taste buds are on the top of the tongue, I freaked out, man. So he'll add lots of detail that's not in the original art. Again, I could go on about that forever. So once that's done, we will heat treat it. So he's starting with soft, what's called tool steel, and then you can scratch it with whatever you got lying around. And with this, a similar process that's used for, making swords hard. You heat it up, you temper it. So that's done with a couple different furnaces. It's about a day-long process to do that. And then we'll move over to the blanks. So we usually get big sheets of copper in. We also use brass, bronze, iron, silver, niobium, occasionally titanium. We don't really use aluminum. We use it for moon ornaments, but that's about it.
Any exotic or higher end metals like gold or platinum?
No, gold. I mean, nah. it's really complicated, like with insurance and
Sure.
security and all that stuff. So we really like niobium. It's a cool one that you can anodize into a rainbow of different colors. So that's our fun metal, I think. So we'll take our sheets of metal and then run them through a blanking press, which just bites big holes out of them, or whatever shape we're doing. If we want to do a square coin, we'll do a square blank. And then we'll usually tumble those to take off the sharp edges before we strike them, kind of get them ready. Sometimes we'll anneal them, which is another heating process, just to make the crystalline structure of the metal a little more malleable. And then we mount those finished dies into one of the presses. That usually takes a couple hours of knobs and all that. And then we're ready. We're ready to make the coin. So we put the blank into the press. Side note on our process, how it differs from other people. Pretty much all coining operations, US Mint, they're all number one collar struck, which is what gives those kind of ridges around the edge of the coin. And it also allows for automatic feeding. And apart from one press that we have, which actually was in the Denver Mint, we don't have any automatic feeding presses. And we actually don't really use that one right now. Still trying to figure out some issues it's got. So every coin that we make, apart from one, is placed by hand. And we do have some automatic ejectors, some of which are completely fabricated from the ground up with like air hoses and stuff. So we place the coin in by hand. It strikes, falls into a little barrel. And then depending on what we want the final product to look like, we'll often put a patina on there. So we'll darken it with different chemicals and then just tumble that off to get those highlights up. It really depends on what we're going for. Sometimes we want to keep it bright and shiny, and so it's ready straight off the press, hot off the press, as they say, because the coins do actually get quite hot from the metal displacement. And then we do all of our own packaging and shipping as well. So then we take it over to the packaging office, and we've just started. I don't have any examples with me, weirdly, but we started a new packaging style. Actually, I might have some. Okay, it's not. Oh, here. I have one. So it's paper with a little wax seal right on the coin, and then there's a small envelope inside that the coin goes into. So we're trying to reduce the plastic that we're using and also increase the fun.
So if you're going to do 500 coins, let's say you got to do 500 coins from start to finish, how long would that take, beginning with concept all the way through?
The actual striking of the coins is kind of the quickest part.
Yeah.
So 500 to 5,000 pretty much takes about the same amount of time. A month is probably the quickest we would do it.
Wow.
We try to do at least.
That's incredible. The process, what goes into that. That's wow.
A lot of that is design, and then the engraving. The engraving part, probably like a day per side, just for the art, engraving the art. And then we got to fit that into everything else we're doing. But yeah, so cool. A month timeline for each coin is reasonable.
Well, and so to transition a little bit, you've got this cool, really interesting niche family business with great customer following and brand associations with things that are kind of household names. What's the vision? Where are you taking this Shire Post Mint over the course of the next 5 years?
I would love to see even more licenses on board, as well as even more of our original concepts. It's not a secret because I invested somewhere else, but we are going to be making like a pizza coin. We have some really cool ideas. I don't know if I can talk about it yet, but I have another license that we're onboarding. everything's signed, but I think in April we're gonna have a new release. Yeah, just more. I guess right now we're really focusing on the new shop. We are thinking about, maybe we build a couple hobbit holes just for some pictures. Really make it a destination. And I'm really excited about the retail shop too. I'd love to have some other Arkansas businesses represented there. So yeah, I think we have a lot of ideas, and we're just trying to figure out the next steps to make them all happen.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're taking steps towards being even more of in addition to a destination, an experience-oriented business. Where rather than just people enjoying the experience of the coin itself and they can buy it online or wherever, then they can actually go to and see the artistry and how it all works and just enjoy visiting the location. So you're really becoming an experience business, sounds like.
Yeah, I guess that is the goal. I think everybody here is on board with that.
That's really cool. Well, we're kind of at a point where we typically land the plane, as we say. You've been on this really interesting journey and you've learned a lot along the way. You're in the CEO role. If you could go back, say right before that time of going through the scale up and give your younger self some advice, what would that advice be?
Communicate. Just keep communicating.
Figure out how to communicate effectively. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's great. It's so important. I mean, it's kind of critical to any business is how well you communicate with each other and your customers. Well, listen, it has been fantastic to have you on board. I think that Shire Post Med is a treasure in NWA, and it's not the typical business, which is what makes it so cool and interesting. Best of luck with the rollout at your new West Fork location. If people want to find out more or want to contact you, what's the best way for them to find out more about Shire Post?
Yeah, shirepost.com, SHIREPOST.com. You can contact me at sales, SALES, at shirepost.com. And yeah, we've got, Instagram, Facebook, got some really cool videos of our process. We're on TikTok if you're on TikTok.
Outstanding. Well, thanks again for coming on, and best of luck.
Yeah.
Another year or two, you got to come back on and give us an update, okay?
Absolutely. Have lots of things to show.
Thanks, Helen. Take care.
Thanks.
See ya.